This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me in the studio today are the Toledo Symphony's principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Siu, also the TSO's director of marketing, Vanessa Gardner, and we have a very special guest joining us by phone. And I even whipped up a little fanfare for you. That is pianist Sarah Davis Buechner. Let me play this fanfare. I don't know if you could tell or not, but that was actually me playing the piano in our studio. I took my little phone in there and taped it. I figured, given, Sarah, that you are a world-famous pianist, it's only appropriate that I play the piano to welcome you to the program. So, and don't be afraid, it's not my career. I don't play in public, so there's no competition there. But thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, and I'll preface everything by mentioning that my dear departed grandmother once cautioned me. She said, "If you don't have anything nice to say to someone, don't say anything at all." So your piano playing is great.
Yeah. Well, that was nice. I'll take it. That's all I can play. I can play a little bit of Bach that I learned at one time, but I can only play the first couple of measures really fast, and that's all as far as I got. So I'm not quite to Merwin's level of genius, but I'm on my way. You are performing with Toledo Symphony, and that is a concert that is the weekend of September 24th and 25th. It's Friday and Saturday, 8 o'clock p.m. at Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. You are bringing this really wonderful piece by a fantastic composer named Florence Price, her piano concerto. Before we talk about that, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit of your story. And I whipped up a little music here. You give us a little background, like the elevator pitch for Sarah Davis Buechner. Let me pull up. Okay. This is called the Baltimore Slow Dance, right? Baltimore Slow Dance. So,
oh my goodness!
You were born in Baltimore, right?
I was. I'm sorry. I was listening for that Baltimore slow dance, but it was a little bit too slow. Anyway.
Let's see if I got something faster.
That's okay. No, that's all right. Baltimore is a bit of a slow town. I was born in Baltimore. I'm not going to reveal the date. It was a while ago, but I was fortunate, I think, at that time, to have the inspiration of both very rapidly improving and impressive Baltimore Symphony, whose concerts I regularly attended, as well as a fantastic baseball team. The Baltimore Orioles were a powerhouse in those days. So these were two very, very big influences upon my life, I would say. And in any case, I went to New York to study in my later teens. Studied at Juilliard with Rudolph Fukushny, and then later also with Byron Janis. And I had a very nice, successful debut in 1984, and I've been playing a lot of concerts since then, quite a bit in North America, throughout Canada and the States. I've done a lot of concerts in Asia as well, traveled a lot through Japan and Korea and China and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, it just keeps going on and on and on. So that's
keeps going.
Kind of, the bulk of it, yes.
Sharing the music, yeah.
Yes.
Merwin, you want to... Go ahead.
I wanted to jump in because I had no idea you were an Orioles fan. I thought you were a Mets fan.
I am a Mets fan, but when I was a child, of course I was an Orioles fan. We had no use for any other team except the Baltimore Orioles. But it inculcated in me a love of baseball, which has lasted to this day.
Merwin, get with the program. We're talking about Sarah's childhood here, right?
I must have jumped ahead to the mature Mets fandom. I apologize.
The story has a happy ending. But
we're talking about the Mets.
If you're talking about the Mets, I'm not sure it does have a happy ending. That's we're still sort of waiting to see. Of course, you're a little bit dancing around. One of the well-known facts of my life is that I'm a transgender American, and I faced a personal and career crisis in my mid to later 30s when I transitioned. And I guess to date, I'm probably still one of the very few well-known classical transgender musicians on the circuit. So, my life has incorporated a certain amount of personal drama, professional drama because of that. But, that's been a good 20 plus years ago now.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to say that I feel like our country has progressed and evolved a lot. And although this impacted my career negatively for a long, long time, I'm doing more playing now than ever before. And I feel like that it's a kind of a badge that I'm proud of now.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
most places when I go, thanks. Usually when I go to play for concerts, I'm very often asked to speak to youth groups, to LGBT groups, schools, and various other organizations, and sort of give the pep talk to say, you can be you, and you can be successful, and it's all okay.
Yeah. Well, I know the last time you were in Toledo, was that for the Clara Schumann concerto? Did that happen, right? Or did it not happen?
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you did give a speech, or you talked about these experiences at University of Toledo, did you not?
Yes, that's right. I did.
Yeah.
You jump up and say, "Oh, yes, of course I did." But the fact is that I do a lot of traveling, and then you ask me the concerts I played about 3 years ago. I mean, I'm likely to just have a brain block. Oh, is that what I played? Really?
Well, as long as you know what you're playing on the next concert, that's really what matters.
Yeah, as long as you know that we're doing Florence Price on this concert, we're good.
Well, you were talking about the Enigma variations, and I was a little bit afraid you were going to ask me to play the Elgar Piano Concerto, which is one that I've never. So I'm glad.
We'll save that for next time. But there is some other music on the program, which we're going to talk about. But let's focus first on Florence Price, African-American composer who has a wide body of wonderful work, and a lot of it has come to light fairly recently, actually. This piano concerto by Florence Price, can you give us a little rundown on who she was, and this piece in particular?
Well, Florence Price was, as you said, an African-American female composer. She was born from Chicago. And she had a certain amount of notoriety during her lifetime, and she certainly played this piano concerto at least once, perhaps several times. But as you mentioned, a lot of her scores just ended up being lost after her passing. And this is one of the pieces that sort of turned up in a trunk in some townhouse, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago. It seems that her family didn't particularly know very much about her life and work, and didn't particularly care to preserve her legacy very well. So it's been a divine miracle of sorts that people who discovered these manuscripts in this trunk, and I think there was a symphony in there, a couple of violin concertos also, saw immediately what this was, this great body of work that she had left behind. And it is very significant American music. This piece has been a real revelation for me to practice. I had heard bits of it because I'm friendly with the pianist Michelle Kahn, who lives here in Philadelphia, and Michelle has played the piece recently. But to actually get the music and to work on it has been just an amazing discovery for me in this time of our history, where I think the words diversity and inclusion are very important words. I look at this piece as a touchstone of some kind. I realize it is going to be the 115th piano concerto that I've played in public, and I like that number a lot. I like to play a lot of music.
What was the first?
The first was Mozart, A major, Herschel 488. When I was 8 years old, I played that particular concerto.
As easy as falling off a log, Just play a little Mozart.
No, it's not at all. But a lot of those 100-plus concertos happen to be things where the orchestra called and said, "Do you know such and such piece?" I lied, and I said, "Well, of course I do."
Excellent. Fake it till you make it.
Times, right? Exactly.
Well, I'm available. I'm available to play the fanfare wherever you go. So maybe we can hook something up, and I can play that before you come on stage.
That's great, Brad. You're hired. Okay.
Excellent. Good to know.
This concerto by Florence Price is very, very wonderful. It takes about 18 minutes to play, and she calls it piano concerto in one movement, but it's in 3 separate sections that kind of link together. A very thunderous and driving opening movement, and very beautifully heartfelt second movement. I mean, everybody will be singing that theme for sure. And the last movement is a ragtime cakewalk. The most delightful conclusion to any American concerto I can think of. It's very similar to the Gershwin piano concerto. To end with a populist kind of dance. And I've just been enjoying learning this thing immensely. And I know that Alan will do a great job with it. This is right up both our alleys. We're going to have a great amount of fun in Toledo.
Yeah. And this is your premiere performance of this concerto in public? Is that correct? Or have you played it?
Yes, that'll be the first time I played it. Yeah, I think a lot of pianists are adding it to their repertoire now as it's getting known. I see it's being played around a fair bit this season.
Yeah, well, you are leading the way as you have done throughout your entire career. Yeah.
Well, this is what we do for our paycheck. So
I did want to mention that your website is fascinating because folks can read all about your story, and you talked about the transgender issue, and you address that as well on your website. But it's also translated into Chinese and Japanese. Is that correct?
It's in Japanese. Because,
it's in Japanese.
I have a lot of concerts in Japan and a lot of fans in Japan, and I want them to be able to read the website. I was told, by the way, some years ago, I was speaking to a kind of a publicist character on the West Coast, and I thought his own website looked terrible. It looked like maybe his high school son had done it, but he criticized mine. He said, I want to talk to you about your website. And I said, yes. And he says, you got to lose those funny characters. It makes it very hard to read. And I said, not for Japanese people. No, some years ago, I undertook the study of Japanese language. I can kind of work my way very slowly through Korean as well. I'm fascinated by Asian cultures and languages. It's just an amazing part of the world. Yeah. I just always have a lot of fun when I'm going there. So, and they have baseball there too.
Right. They're not the Mets, but they have baseball. Yeah. But how does Toledo compare with your overseas travels? Are you looking forward to coming back and visiting us?
Absolutely. I mean, Toledo has one of the premier attractions in the world, as you well know. And do I need to spell it out here on your program? PAEKO apostrophe S. Okay, and it's an institution. It's a great meal. I had to see that place when I came, and I can't wait to return.
Yeah. Well, hey, we also have a great art museum, by the way. When you're here, you're actually going to be in it, I think.
And our Mud Hens are in first place, aren't they?
Yeah, the Mud Hens, not the Mets, but the Mud Hens. Yeah.
The Mets would probably lose to them too. So
good to know.
Can't take it seriously. Yeah. So, no, of course, it's a very famous and very wonderful art museum. I mean, it's a very beautiful city, and I think Toledo is a real treasure of the United States. And the orchestra is magnificent. So
excellent.
I'm really looking. Yeah.
We'll give you some applause for that. I want to jump over to some of our quiz. We usually have a quiz during the show, and since you're with us, Sarah, I think it would be fun if you joined in, if you don't mind.
I will try to study. I mean, this is like going to math class in 5th grade. Oh, please, Mr. King, I didn't do my homework again.
I get the hot sweats for every quiz.
Yeah.
It's very anxiety-inducing.
Not me. I used to host the Met Opera quiz on the radio for a long time, and I found it so much nicer to be the quiz master instead of the recipient of the quiz, because I have all the answers right here in my hand.
My grandmother listen to that broadcast every weekend, and she would nail those quizzes. I mean, she knew it all.
Oh yeah. I never had to worry about that because I mean, hopefully I won't mess up. I've got it right here, so I'll give it a shot.
All right.
Let's pull up some background music here. Let me find. We'll bring this up again. Okay, this is the Baltimore slow dance. So let me see as many questions as I can get through here. Okay, I give you 3 different clues. You tell me who the composer is. If you get it right away, you go ahead and jump in. Okay, clue A. I painted landscapes in watercolors. Any guesses?
Okay.
Okay, I almost single-handedly brought about the fame of one of Western Europe's greatest composers.
Okay,
All
I'll
right,
go.
Mendelssohn.
Yeah.
Talking about Felix Mendelssohn.
Felix Mendelssohn. Very good job. Okay, so that goes to Sarah. I'll give it to
Yay!
It's
No,
a
there's
one-question
still-
quiz.
Still a few more questions.
When you said the landscape, but I just sort of wanted to wait for the second clue. But it's one of the most incredible marvels of classical music that there are these composers who were so multi-talented. And there's Mendelssohn. Schoenberg was a very accomplished painter. So was George Gershwin. I mean, you know.
Well, there goes my entire quiz right there.
Oh, really? The whole thing's gone. That's it.
Oh, wow. All right, I'll give it a shot anyway. Here's another one. See if you can get this
Okay.
one. I was
All
a
right.
talented caricaturist from Italy.
That's Enrico Caruso, of course.
Oh, wow.
Of course. We're going to
course.
sail right through these. I didn't get to I didn't get to the final clue, which was I was once arrested at the Central Park Zoo for pinching a woman's behind. Right?
That I didn't know. That Caruso did that. It doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. That story.
They were
Wow.
he had to pay a fine of $10 for doing that. But there was a law at the time in Toledo, if you did that, you had to pay a $50 fine. So we were a little progressive as far as that goes, right? Okay.
I guess.
Next question. This one might be a little more difficult. Let me see, because it's a musician, not necessarily a classical musician, although they have written some classical pieces. Okay. I am a famous singer with over 70 paintings to my credit.
Paul McCartney?
Oh my gosh, how did you get that?
Oh, you nailed it, Merwin. Wow. Wow. How about
Merwin, thus proving his genius level talent. Yeah. Okay.
Gotta watch. Smart. Yeah.
This next one should be fairly easy. I was a doodler, mostly. I wrote in the margins of my manuscripts, very occasionally. I loved animals. At various times I had a pet canary, a pet starling, a dog, and a horse. And despite writing timeless and beautiful music, I had a notoriously scatological sense of humor.
Well, I think you're talking Mozart, right?
Yeah,
But
it's Mozart. It's the obvious choice. We don't think of Mozart as somebody who drew very much, but there's a famous doodle of his student Barbara, whatever her name was, Barbara Ployer, something like that.
Ployer, uh-huh.
Yeah, that he wrote
I
in the
didn't know that.
margin of one of his manuscripts. Yeah.
That I didn't know. Well, there was Bohuslav Martin who did a lot of doodles, sort of himself, a kind of a stick figure caricature of himself. And Paul Hindemith was a very skilled cartoonist. Wrote a lot of cartoons. But
Yeah.
but when you scatological, I figured, okay, that's got to be Mozart. But I didn't know he had a horse. That you threw me. I knew he had a starling. I didn't know he had a horse. You know?
Well, I source my information at least from two different sources. Sometimes only one source, and sometimes I just make it up. So you're more or less on your own when it comes to the quiz. But you did win that question, so only a couple of more questions here, which I predict Sarah will breeze right through. I famously shook the foundations of melody and harmony, but as a painter, I stuck mostly to self-portraits and landscapes. Okay.
That's
That would be
Schoenberg.
Schoenberg.
Yes, Arnold Schoenberg.
Oh,
you
I thought
got
it was Claude Michel Schoenberg. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well, even if I give that to Merwin, it's still Sarah in the lead. So, yeah, I had a few other clues for Schoenberg.
I want to win a Price is Right prize for this one. I want I want the car or the washing machine or what's behind curtain number 3. That's what I really.
Absolutely. Well, you can ask about that when you arrive in Toledo. You talk to the symphony; they'll arrange that for you. Last question. Okay, let me get a little something here. I made many portraits of my family and friends, including one of the people on this list. I wrote my biggest selling song during a 10-minute bus ride. One of the arias in my only opera has been covered more than 33,000 times by various bands and musicians.
Yeah, that's Gershwin.
That is George Gershwin.
Yeah, he was a marvelous singer. Yeah, and he did a great portrait of himself, and he did a terrific portrait of Schoenberg as well, sort of steaming, looking hot and angry. This is kind of a famous portrait.
Well, I mean, I think he was taking Schoenberg's cue because he made some pretty scary self-portraits as well. When you look at him, Schoenberg did. But they were like tennis buddies in Hollywood, evidently. They played tennis together.
Door to each other in Roxbury. Yes, not Roxbury. Roxbury Drive. That's right, Roxbury Drive. They had adjacent houses, and they would play tennis together, and I think get into near fist fights.
Yeah.
But they admired each other.
Yeah,
so.
Completely. It's a really interesting story that I didn't know about. And you can find videos, like pictures of them playing tennis, and there's even a video on YouTube, I think, of Schoenberg talking about Gershwin after Gershwin died, because he died so young. And it's really interesting. You go down that YouTube rabbit hole often, Sarah? Has that happened to you?
Life is too short for YouTube. I've just kind of decided, the thing that scares me about YouTube is if I start thinking about years past, I find old television shows and even commercials that are still lodged in the back of my brain, and then I see it, like something for Brill Cream and old episodes of Mr. Ed, and then it scares the hell out of me. What has Madison Avenue done to us all? Planted when we were kids, and YouTube will suck up your brain really, really quickly. So I tend to avoid YouTube.
Yeah, I don't have any brain left, so it's all been sucked up by one rabbit hole or another. We're talking with Sarah Davis Buchner, who's coming to the Toledo Symphony Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. It's at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle, September 24th and 25th. Elaine Trudell is conducting the program. It includes the piano concerto by Florence Price, also one of the orchestral suites by Johann Sebastian Bach, and then there's this wonderful piece by Edward Elgar called the Enigma Variations, which most people are familiar with, but I want to see if we can solve it, like in the course of the next couple of minutes, okay? So the whole idea behind the Enigma Variations is that Elgar wrote this piece, and there's a hidden theme, which is never heard, that runs throughout, and people have been trying to guess what the theme is, since he wrote it. He said that it was a very familiar theme. So people have said, maybe it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, maybe it's Auld Lang Syne, maybe it's Pop Goes the Weasel, or it's, any number of themes. So I was hoping that we could come up with the correct theme and put the issue to bed during the podcast. What do you think? Is that a yes or no? Were you guys listening, by the way?
Vanessa and I are looking at each other, and we are thinking that maybe if we could somehow render it as a violin and horn duet, that we could probably come up with it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, just any tune that you think might work. I mean, have you thought about this at all? I know Elaine would have something to say, but he's not here now, so... You've played Enigma Variations before, right?
I've played it a couple of times, yes.
Yeah. Do you ever play it and then all of a sudden another tune pops in your head and you think, aha, that's it?
It definitely was not Pop Goes the Weasel. I'll just...
I don't think that was on the list, but it just came to mind, so I said it.
I think a confession, but I think this piece of music has evaded my performance history. I don't think I have ever performed Enigma Variations.
Wow. Yeah. That's it. We solved the mystery. It's because you've never played it.
It's John Cage 433.
As soon as you... Yeah, right. The hidden theme is the John Cage silent piece. I mean, Sarah, I know you're a pianist, but has this thought ever occurred to you? You ever tried to figure out what theme fit in there?
Well, I've heard Enigma many, many times, and I do love it very, very much. It's an absolutely staggering piece of music. As far as the Enigma, I mean, I think he addresses the theme itself as Enigma. And the only thing that it ever resembled to me was the opening of the Beethoven Piano Sonata, Opus 110, which is Do, La, Re, Si, Mi, Re, Mi, Fa, Mi, Re, Re. And, of course, the Enigma is Si, Sol, Do, La, Re. So it has a series of rising thirds. But whether it has any relation to Beethoven or not is really, it's a bit of a mystery. Why it's even an enigma.
Yeah.
I think that's as good a guess as any.
I have a little bit of the Nimrod, which I'll bring up here, the Nimrod movement. For people who don't know, is a series of portraits of friends and relatives, including himself, of Edward Elgar. And we know who all the portraits are. Elgar famously loved puzzles. He loved all the little kinds of, intricate codes and things like that. And so that became a part of his approach to these Enigma variations. I saw a really interesting, speaking of your favorite channel, Sarah, YouTube, I saw an interesting episode of a program called Inside the Score, where they talk about this particular piece and this theme. And to quote Elgar, he says, "The hidden theme never appears," right? And you can read that in a couple of different ways. What if the theme is called Never? What if the theme is Never? So if you look at the song Rule Britannia in the lyrics, on the words never, it's where it goes, never, 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 right? And so if you slow that down, you get that theme from the Elgar piece right here. Never, never, never. Will Britain something or other. I don't remember the rest of the words. But I thought that was really interesting. And given that you guys are doing this on the concert, I thought it'd be worth offering. So that's my solution. Which I completely copied from this other website.
Hey, you cited your source. That's all that matters.
I cited my source, indeed. So, solve the Enigma variations right there. Just one of the things that we do every week on Toledo Symphony Lab. So that's great.
You may very well be onto something with that never, never thing with the Enigma. So I'm going to go look that up now, either in a book or. Should I cheat? Use YouTube? Maybe I'll cheat and use YouTube. Anyway.
You don't have to tell anybody. We won't tell anybody. There's only 2 or 3 people listening right now, so we're good.
Scrap the rest of your afternoon, though, because you'll go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, you'll go down the Enigma YouTube rabbit hole.
Most looking forward to is listening to the Toledo Symphony play it, because I haven't heard it in a while, and it's a very, very moving and effective piece of music. It's a real thrill, that piece. Wonderful.
Well, we're looking forward to having you here, and especially to playing this piece, which has never been performed with Toledo Symphony before, that you've never played before, the Piano Concerto by Florence Price, and also on the concert, music of Johann Sebastian Bach, directed by Elaine Trudel, with guest pianist Sarah Davis Buchner, coming to the Paris Style at 8 o'clock p.m., Friday and Saturday, September 24th and 25th. You can find more information about this concert at ToledoSymphony.com or call up the box office at 419-246-8000. Sir Davis Buchner, thank you so much for joining us today here on our podcast, Toledo Symphony Lab. We look forward to having you here in Toledo.
Oh, my pleasure, Brad. Thanks so much for having me.
This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at ToledoSymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find the TSO's streaming platform online at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Merwin Sue and Vanessa Gardner, also to Sarah Davis Buchner, who joined us today. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.